We often find comfort in the idea that time eventually brings clarity. When faced with baffling mysteries that haunt our thoughts, we tell ourselves that experts will one day uncover the truth. This hope soothes our restless minds, letting us sleep easier and live with less anxious curiosity. Yet, sometimes the past stubbornly refuses to give up its secrets. Even with advances in technology and scholarship, some puzzles remain as confounding as ever. Below are some of history's most intriguing enigmas: unsolved murder cases, strange archaeological finds, and elusive figures, still begging for answers. These are the unsolved puzzles that continue to haunt humanity, where every clue leads to more questions. So sit tight as we dive in and uncover 12 of the most chilling and bewildering historical mysteries that remain unsolved to this day, and you will have incredible luck if you like and subscribe before this video ends. 1. How did Edgar Allan Poe really die? A deep dive into his final days. Edgar Allan Poe, the master of macabre and mystery, lived a life shrouded in darkness, and his death was no different. On September 27, 1849, Poe departed Richmond, Virginia, with plans to travel to Philadelphia to finalize editorial arrangements for a magazine. It was an ordinary journey for a man of letters, but it would turn out to be the last time anyone saw him alive and well. What happened next remains one of the most puzzling enigmas in American literary history. For nearly a week, Poe vanished without a trace. He never arrived in Philadelphia. Then, on October 3, 1849, Joseph W. Walker, a Baltimore typesetter, was heading to Gunners Hall, a local polling place, to cast his vote in a local election. As he approached the tavern, he noticed a man lying sprawled across the gutter in a state of distress. The man was disheveled, nearly unrecognizable, wearing ill-fitting and soiled clothes that did not appear to be his own. That man was Edgar Allan Poe. Walker was startled to discover the famed poet in such a horrific state. Poe was semi-conscious, disoriented, and unable to explain how he had ended up there. He could barely speak, but he managed to mutter the name of a friend, Joseph E. Snodgrass. Walker, sensing the urgency, penned a note to Snodgrass, a magazine editor with medical training, urging him to come quickly and assist Poe. Poe was transported to Washington College Hospital, where his condition worsened. For the next 4 days, he drifted in and out of delirium. He was never coherent enough to explain the circumstances that led to his collapse. During his hallucinations, he repeatedly cried out for someone named Reynolds, though no one ever discovered who this person was or what role, if any, they played in Poe's life. He died in the early morning hours of October 7, 1849, at just 40 years old. The official cause of death listed on his death certificate was phrenitis, or inflammation of the brain, a vague diagnosis often used in the 19th century to describe unexplained neurological symptoms. But the ambiguity surrounding the document only deepened the mystery. No autopsy was performed, and all medical records related to Poe's death were lost, leaving future generations to speculate on what truly happened. In the decades since, scholars, historians, and medical experts have offered a wide range of theories, each more chilling or tragic than the last. Alcohol poisoning. Poe was known to have a low tolerance for alcohol. Some believe a relapse into drinking, even a small one, may have triggered a fatal reaction. Cooping. One of the most popular theories is that Poe was a victim of cooping, a voter fraud scheme common in the 19th century. Gangs would kidnap unsuspecting men, drug or beat them, disguise them in different clothing, and force them to vote multiple times for a political candidate. Poe was found near a polling site in unfamiliar clothes during an election. The connection is chilling. Rabies. In the 1990s, a group of medical researchers analyzed Poe's symptoms, delirium, hallucinations, difficulty drinking water, and suggested he may have contracted rabies, possibly from an unnoticed animal bite. Brain tumor. In 1875, when Poe's body was moved to a new grave, observers claimed his skull contained a strange mass, possibly a calcified tumor. This has fueled speculation that a brain condition may have caused his erratic behavior and death. Heavy metal poisoning. Forensic studies on a hair sample suggested high levels of lead and other metals, possibly from exposure to toxic inks or water. Chronic poisoning could explain his mental decline. Murder. Some researchers believe Poe may have been the target of foul play, possibly connected to romantic or financial conflicts, influenza or other illness. Others have suggested a severe bout of the flu or another infection, worsened by poor health and inadequate medical care, may have been the true culprit. To this day, no single explanation fits every detail. Poe's final words, if any were recorded, remain lost to time. His passing mirrors his writing, shadowed, sorrowful, and filled with unanswered questions. Just as his stories end with an eerie sense of unfinished business, so too does the tale of his death. Whether he fell victim to violence, illness, or his own inner demons, the tragic demise of Edgar Allan Poe remains a fitting final chapter in the life of literature's greatest mystery maker. 2. The mysterious Leatherman, the silent wanderer who walked in circles and slept in caves. In the late 19th century, an enigmatic figure began haunting the roads and woodlands of the northeastern United States. Dressed head to toe in heavy, handmade leather garments, regardless of weather, this silent man walked a continuous 365-mile loop through Connecticut and New York, appearing in each town along the route like clockwork every 34 to 36 days. No one knew his real name. No one knew where he came from. Locals simply called him the Leatherman. He first appeared around 1857, and for over 30 years, the Leatherman maintained his strange, solitary pilgrimage. His route wound through small towns and rural backroads, cutting through forests and farmland. He rarely spoke, except for brief words or gestures, and communicated mostly through nods and quiet grunts. Some believed he was French, based on his accent during rare moments of speech. Others thought he may have been mentally ill or heartbroken. All that was certain was that his devotion to this ritualistic journey never wavered. Rain, snow, or blistering sun, he walked on. His clothing was remarkable. A patchwork suit of thick leather, hand-stitched and worn from constant use. He carried a simple sack and ate what he was given. Locals grew to expect his arrival, often setting food aside for him and watching for his familiar silhouette on the horizon. Farmers and townspeople respected him, and many admired his discipline and peaceful presence. At night, he slept in rocky shelters and caves, dozens of which became known as Leatherman Caves. He was so punctual that schools let children out early to watch him pass, and some families marked his visits on their calendars like holidays. Despite numerous attempts to discover his identity, he remained a complete mystery. He never sought medical care, never asked for money, and refused shelter or prolonged human interaction. In 1888, a Connecticut state law was even passed allowing him to continue his wandering lifestyle undisturbed, officially recognizing his harmless, if unusual, presence. In 1889, the Leatherman's journey came to an end. He was found dead in one of his caves near Ossining, New York, with no known cause beyond natural decline. He was buried in a pauper's grave, under the name Jules Bourglet of Lyons, France, though later research disproved this identity. When his grave was exhumed in 2011 for study and relocation, no remains were found, only a few nails and fragments of leather. To this day, his true name, origin, and purpose remain unknown. Was he fleeing something? A vow of penance? A broken past? Or simply a man who found peace in a path only he could understand? The Leatherman story has inspired books, songs, documentaries, and local legends. But more than anything, he remains a haunting symbol of solitude and mystery. A lone figure walking in circles, cloaked in leather, vanishing into the woods as silently as he came. 3. The Isabella Stewart Gardner heist, the greatest unsolved art theft in history. In the quiet early hours of March 18, 1990, while Boston celebrated St. Patrick's Day, two men in police uniforms arrived at the doors of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. Claiming to be responding to a disturbance, they rang the bell at the employee entrance. Despite standard protocols, a young security guard allowed them inside, a decision that would trigger one of the most audacious and baffling crimes in American history. Once inside, the supposed officers revealed their true intentions. They subdued the two on-duty guards, handcuffing and duct taping them in the museum's basement. With the museum defenseless, the thieves began a meticulously executed robbery. Over the next 81 minutes, they moved through the elegant galleries, targeting some of the world's most precious works of art. Ignoring many high-value pieces, they selected 13 artworks, including The Storm on the Sea of Galilee, the only seascape ever painted by Rembrandt. A rare Vermeer titled The Concert, one of just 34 known to exist. Works by Manet and Degas. A Chinese bronze beaker and a Napoleonic eagle finial. The thieves used box cutters to slice masterpieces from their frames, and in some cases, simply pulled them off the walls. Then, just as calmly as they had entered, they vanished into the night. No alarms were triggered, and no reliable eyewitnesses ever came forward. In the aftermath, investigators were left with little more than questions. The museum's motion detectors helped reconstruct the thieves' movements, but surveillance footage offered no useful leads. Over the years, suspects ranging from local gangsters to international crime syndicates have been floated, but no one has ever been charged. The stolen art, estimated to be worth over $500 million, remains missing to this day. The FBI has hinted that it believes some of the works changed hands on the black market, yet no piece has surfaced in over 3 decades. In a haunting tribute to the theft, the Gardner Museum still displays the empty frames, hanging on the walls as silent reminders of what was taken. Meanwhile, a $10 million reward remains on offer for any information leading to the recovery of the stolen artwork and the arrest of those responsible. The Gardner Museum heist remains the largest unsolved art theft in the world, a haunting mystery where every clue seems to lead to another dead end. Who orchestrated it? Why those particular pieces? And where are they now? Decades later, the world is still waiting for answers. For who was the woman in the polka dot dress allegedly involved in Bobby Kennedy's assassination? On the night of June 5, 1968, at Los Angeles' Ambassador Hotel, presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy was fatally shot by Sirhan Bashar Sirhan, a Palestinian-born man motivated by anger over Kennedy's support for Israel. The shooting was caught on film. Sirhan was seen calmly loading his revolver and firing 8 shots toward Kennedy. To many, the case seemed straightforward. Sirhan acted alone in a politically charged assassination. But as the investigation unfolded, a curious and controversial detail emerged. More than 24 witnesses claimed Sirhan did not act alone. They described seeing a mysterious woman in a polka dot dress at the scene, someone who may have assisted or distracted during the attack. The hotel's assistant maitre d', who helped subdue Sirhan, insisted the shooter was too far away to deliver the fatal shot to Kennedy's head, which, according to coroner reports, entered just an inch from the back of Kennedy's skull. This suggested a second gunman might have been involved. One waiter, Vincent DePiro, testified he saw a woman with Sirhan during the shooting. Other eyewitnesses reported seeing a woman wearing a polka dress running through the hotel corridors as Sirhan shouted, "We shot him!" This woman's presence became a key piece of evidence in questioning the official narrative. 2 weeks after these accounts surfaced, witness Sandra Serrano-Sewell was said to have recanted her statement about hearing the woman shout that she and Sirhan shot Kennedy. Yet, 2 decades later, in 1988, Serrano-Sewell confessed on live radio that she had never actually retracted her original statement and that she had been coerced by police to deny it. Adding further intrigue, in 2011 Sirhan's legal team presented new evidence claiming that, during hypnosis sessions and repeated interviews, Sirhan admitted he had met and acted alongside a woman in a polka dot dress that night, implying she was a possible accomplice. Despite these revelations, courts rejected Sirhan's appeals, and he remained imprisoned, serving a life sentence for the assassination. The mysterious woman in the polka dot dress remains one of the most perplexing and debated figures in the assassination of Robert Kennedy. Her identity and role still shrouded in secrecy and speculation. 5. What happened to the princes in the tower? The mystery of the missing princes, Edward and Richard of York. During the turbulent period of the Wars of the Roses, 1455 to 1487, 2 young royal brothers, Edward and Richard, were born to King Edward IV and Elizabeth Woodville. These princes were caught in the deadly struggle between the rival houses of York and Lancaster, each vying for control of the English throne. In 1483, tragedy struck when King Edward IV suddenly died, leaving his eldest son, Edward V, as the heir. With Edward V still a child, his uncle Richard, Duke of Gloucester, later crowned Richard III, was appointed his protector. Under this pretense, Richard placed both young princes in the infamous Tower of London, claiming it was for their safety amid the violent political chaos. After their confinement, the two boys vanished from history. Neither was ever seen again, and their fate remains one of England's greatest royal mysteries. The princes' remains have never been conclusively identified, though many historians and scholars believe they were murdered to secure the throne. Several suspects have been named, each with possible motives. Richard III, their ambitious uncle, famously portrayed as a villain in Shakespeare's plays, accused of ordering their deaths to eliminate rivals. Henry Stafford, Duke of Buckingham, once a close ally of Richard but later his adversary, rumored to have his own designs. Henry Tudor, later Henry VII, who led the Lancastrian opposition and would benefit greatly from their disappearance by clearing the path to the throne. Margaret Beaufort, Henry Tudor's mother, who was deeply involved in the political machinations of the time. Adding to the intrigue, a set of unidentified bones, long kept in an urn at Westminster Abbey, have been suspected by many Tudor and Stuart historians to belong to the lost princes. When Richard III's own skeletal remains were discovered beneath a parking lot in Leicester in 2012, renewed calls arose for DNA testing of these bones to finally solve the mystery. However, the British monarchy and the Church of England have refused to authorize such testing, leaving the true fate of Edward and Richard, a mystery that has haunted English history for over 5 centuries, still unanswered. 6. What really happened in the Lizzie Borden case? The unsolved mystery of Lizzie Borden and the Fall River murders. The brutal murders of Andrew and Abby Borden remain one of the most infamous cases in American history, yet the true details surrounding the crime continue to baffle investigators and historians alike. While the chilling nursery rhyme about the case is widely known, it distorts key facts. Abby Borden, the stepmother, suffered 19 fatal hatchet blows, whereas Andrew, her husband, was struck 10 times, not the exaggerated 41 blows often recited. Though Lizzie Borden was ultimately acquitted in court, many modern scholars strongly believe she was responsible for the killings. However, the exact circumstances of that grim day in 1892 may never be fully uncovered. The Bordens were a wealthy, well-respected Protestant family in Fall River, Massachusetts. Lizzie herself was a Sunday school teacher, a pillar of the community during a time when anti-Irish Catholic sentiment ran high, as many Irish immigrants settled in the area. When the murders occurred, initial police assumptions leaned toward blaming foreigners, despite the fact that 2 immigrant doctors lived nearby who might have helped the victims. Instead, Lizzie refused medical aid from these doctors and insisted on a New England physician, who was unfortunately absent at the critical moment. Lizzie's position in a socially esteemed family made it hard for neighbors to imagine her as the killer. Even after police disclosed her suspicious attempt to buy prussic acid, hydrogen cyanide, the day before the murders, along with conflicting accounts of her whereabouts on the day of the crime, the town struggled to accept her guilt. Authorities including the judge, district attorney, and police marshal believed Lizzie was probably guilty, and she was arrested. Yet, her defense gained powerful support from women's suffrage groups and other advocates, who saw the trial as emblematic of societal struggles over gender and class. Utilizing her father's fortune, Lizzie secured one of the best lawyers in Massachusetts, and after a tense trial, the jury acquitted her. Despite the verdict, critical questions remain. How exactly did the murders unfold? What motivated the attack? And which weapon was ultimately used? The chilling answers remain shrouded in mystery, and the truth behind the Fall River murders endures as a haunting enigma. 7. What is the ancient Linear A script? Archaeologists have uncovered numerous tablets and artifacts inscribed with a mysterious script known as Linear A across the southern Greek island of Crete. Dating back to around 1700 BCE, this enigmatic pictorial writing typically appears in sequences of 4 to 9 lines. Experts estimate that the script contains between 77 and 85 unique symbols, leading many to believe it represents a syllabic form of language. Despite extensive study, scholars have yet to decode Linear A or link it definitively to any known ancient language. Some researchers theorize it was a pre-Hellenistic system of communication, while others suggest it might stem from a non-European linguistic origin altogether. Because these inscriptions are primarily found in Minoan palace sites, which served as administrative and redistribution centers, many scholars propose that Linear A was used mainly for bookkeeping and accounting purposes. Although some symbols have been identified as part of a numerical system, the precise names and meanings of those numbers remain unknown, adding to the script's enduring mystery. How do monarch butterflies maintain their migration over several generations? Monarch butterflies undertake an incredible multi-generational migration along the western and eastern coasts of the United States, a journey that can take up to 5 generations to complete from their wintering grounds in Mexico and back again. Each spring, starting around March, the butterflies begin moving northward to southern states like Texas, where they breed and lay eggs. As the months progress and the weather warms, successive generations continue this northward advance, gradually reaching the northern US and even southern Canada. Scientists have used the analysis of carbon and hydrogen isotopes found on the monarch's wings to map out the migration routes of their ancestors across multiple generations. A comprehensive study spanning 17 US states and 2 Canadian provinces revealed that it can take as many as 5 generations of monarchs to complete this long evolutionary journey. Yet, despite this clear migratory pattern, the remarkable ability of each new generation to navigate to the same specific locations, places they have never visited before, remains an intriguing mystery to researchers. 9. Who were the Sea People? Ancient Egyptian texts, Hittite records, and various archaeological discoveries recount a series of violent clashes with a mysterious group known only as the Sea Peoples. These conflicts, which unfolded during the Late Bronze Age around the 13th century BCE, are widely believed to have contributed significantly to the collapse of multiple powerful empires across the eastern Mediterranean. Yet, despite the abundance of historical references, the true identity, origins, and motivations of the Sea Peoples remain shrouded in mystery, an enigma that has perplexed scholars for over a century. The name Sea Peoples was coined by the French Egyptologist Gaston Maspero in 1881, after his examination of ancient Egyptian inscriptions. These texts described invading groups who came from the sea, launching sudden and devastating attacks on Egypt and its neighbors. However, the Egyptian accounts, as well as those from the Hittites and other contemporaneous sources, offer frustratingly little concrete information about where these maritime warriors originated. The records consistently depict them as foreign invaders with aggressive intentions, but they never specify a homeland or clear ethnic identity. What is known from the Egyptian inscriptions is that the Sea Peoples appeared during the reigns of some of Egypt's most famous pharaohs, Ramesses II, Merenta, and Ramesses III. These rulers left detailed accounts of the battles fought against the invaders, illustrating a period of intense warfare and instability. Yet curiously, the Egyptians never explicitly named the Sea Peoples in their historical texts, instead referring to them in more general terms or by the names of individual tribes or groups within the Confederation. This omission has led many scholars to speculate that the Egyptians might have recognized these groups well, but chose not to record their names publicly, perhaps as a political strategy or due to the complexity of the Sea Peoples' composition. The Sea Peoples are described as a coalition of various tribes or clans, possibly including peoples displaced by upheaval elsewhere in the Mediterranean. Some theories suggest they originated from regions such as the Aegean, Anatolia, or even farther west in the Mediterranean. Archaeological evidence, such as weapon styles and pottery fragments, hints at a diverse cultural background, which supports the idea that the Sea Peoples were not a single homogeneous group but rather a confederation of seafaring raiders united by common interests or pressures. Their invasions were catastrophic. Alongside Egypt, the Sea Peoples are implicated in the downfall of the Hittite Empire and the destruction or severe weakening of other kingdoms like the Mycenaean civilization and various city-states in the Levant. The resulting widespread destruction marks the transition from the Bronze Age to the Iron Age, a major turning point in ancient history. The exact reasons behind these migrations and attacks remain unclear, whether driven by climate change, famine, economic collapse, internal strife, or a combination of factors. Despite the importance of the sea peoples in this transformative era, their true story continues to elude definitive answers. The scarcity and vagueness of ancient records mean historians and archaeologists must piece together clues from fragmentary evidence, making the sea peoples one of the enduring historical mysteries of the ancient world. As new archaeological techniques and discoveries emerge, future research may one day shed light on who these enigmatic invaders really were, where they came from, and how they reshaped the course of history. Until then, the sea peoples remain a shadowy force that helped bring down great civilizations and left behind only tantalizing hints of their existence. 10. What was the Monkey Man of Delhi? In 2001, a mysterious figure known as the Monkey Man terrorized the poorer neighborhoods of Delhi, India, striking fear into residents during the early morning hours between midnight and 4 a.m. Eyewitness accounts varied wildly. Some described the creature as having metal teeth and claws, while others claimed its eyes glowed either wild green or fiery red. Many said it was covered in black fur, and intriguingly, a few witnesses even reported seeing it wearing roller skates. Despite the wildly differing reports, the Delhi police doubted the creature's existence. However, doctors who examined the bite marks on several victims concluded they were not caused by a human. Over 348 people were reportedly attacked, and at least 3 deaths were linked to these incidents, sparking widespread panic throughout the city. In response, vigilantes roamed the streets at night armed with sticks and makeshift weapons, desperate to protect themselves from the elusive menace. The Monkey Man's true identity and nature remain a mystery. Even with a $1,000,000 reward offered by the police for information leading to its capture, the creature was never explained or caught, leaving the city haunted by an unsolved enigma. 11. When were people first in the Americas? While most experts agree that humans migrated to the Americas within the last 25,000 years, the exact timing and routes of their arrival remain subjects of ongoing debate. For decades, the dominant theory centered on the idea that early peoples crossed a land bridge, known as Beringia, that once connected Siberia to present-day Alaska during the last ice age. This theory suggested that the Clovis people, named after their distinctive flint spear points, were the continent's first inhabitants, settling in modern New Mexico around 13,500 years ago. However, discoveries made in the late 20th century challenged this narrative. In the late 1970s, archaeologists uncovered the Monteverde site in southern Chile, radiocarbon dated to approximately 14,800 years ago, well before the Clovis culture emerged. Notably, Monteverde lacked Clovis-style tools, indicating a distinct, earlier group of settlers. Although many archaeologists initially rejected pre-Clovis evidence, further findings have added weight to the idea that humans arrived earlier than previously thought. At the Buttermilk Creek complex in Texas, researchers unearthed over 15,000 artifacts dated to about 15,500 years ago. In northern Florida, a mastodon tusk carved with knife marks dating back more than 14,500 years was found. Moreover, an ancient human footprint in New Mexico may be as old as 23,000 years. Today, many scientists support the coastal route theory, which proposes that early migrants traveled by boat along the Pacific coastline. While once considered unlikely, geological research has identified periods between 24,500 to 22,000 years ago, and again from 16,400 to 14,800 years ago, when sea levels and ice conditions would have made coastal navigation feasible. This evolving evidence continues to reshape our understanding of the first Americans and their remarkable journey. 12. Who tried to flush $100,000 down an Australian TV station's toilet? In 2011, janitor Kamindu Amarsingh stumbled upon an unexpected fortune while working at an Australian TV studio. While cleaning a restroom, he discovered numerous $50 and $100 Australian bills stuffed inside a toilet. At first, he thought it was a prank, but after handling the notes, he realized the money was real. Acting responsibly, Amarsingh immediately informed his supervisor. Authorities, including the police and a plumber, were called in to investigate. They extracted around $100,000 from the toilet, sparking a search for the owner of the hidden cash. Despite the sizable sum, no one came forward to claim it. Eventually, the investigation led to the arrest of Emerald Nguyen, who was accused of hiding the money in the restroom. However, the charges against Nguyen were dropped after he claimed to have been intoxicated and unable to recall the incident. Amar Singh's honesty did not go unnoticed. In recognition of his integrity, he was awarded about $80,000 of the recovered cash. This windfall arrived at a pivotal time. Amar Singh was pursuing an IT degree in New Zealand while working a fast food job to support himself. The unexpected reward helped ease his financial burdens and marked a turning point in his life. These enduring mysteries serve as reminders of the complexities of history and the human experience. They challenge our understanding and inspire ongoing curiosity and investigation. Some stories were never meant to be solved, just remembered. Which of these mysteries haunts you the most? Feel free to leave your comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more mysteries like this. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.